Hi, fourth grade. We're starting a new topic today. We're going to be talking about cityscapes. We're also going to discuss new vocabulary words like foreground, middle ground, background, and value. Oh, and let's talk about overlapping too. So let's take a look at this photograph of a city. Some artists are fascinated with cities and buildings, and artwork that shows groups of large buildings are called cityscapes. So cityscapes can show a range of values from dark to light. An artist can plan a cityscape painting or drawing out so that one shape overlaps or covers part of another shape. Artists can kind of group the shapes and values so that your eye moves from the foreground to the middle ground to the background. So the foreground, what's in the foreground in this picture, we actually see the flowers are in the foreground. In the middle ground, we see cars on the road, and in the background, we see buildings, okay? And the photograph here, we can kind of see how those things overlap each other because cities are usually very congested and have a lot going on, so it's a great opportunity for artists to draw overlapping objects. So let's take a look at this painting here. This artist has painted this in Brooklyn, and you can see that there are some buildings close to us and some buildings that are very, very far away. Where do you see the darker values in the cityscape? If you said in the front or in the foreground, that is correct. So we have buildings that appear to be nearer to us. They're a little bit more detailed because they're closer to us. So the reds and the blacks are very dark and we can see a lot of detail. In the middle ground, it looks like we have boats and water. And then in the background, we have a lot of buildings that the artist has used light values, and we don't have as much detail in those buildings. I think it's important today that we take a look at a student example. So let's take a look at a fourth grade artwork or a fourth grade cityscape. If you take a look, you can see that this student started with something in the foreground, very, very dark. It's almost in silhouette. It kind of looks like someone's up on a rooftop in New York City. Where do we see the darker values? They're closer to us. And then what this student has done is just faded the grays out as they've moved from the middle ground to the background, okay? I feel like the title Moody City would fit with this artwork really, really well because it looks like kind of like foggy and dark. What we're going to try to do today is what's called, this is another vocabulary word, a monochromatic drawing, where we attempt to use just one color, but we change the value of that color from its darkest to its lightest point. So you're going to need your sketchbook, a pencil, and your colored pencils. Okay, so today I'm just going to start drawing a fictional city, but you can, if you want to use a photo of a real city, by all means you can do that too. I'm going to start off by drawing the buildings that are in the foreground. Now, I know a lot of you may want to use a ruler for this. I think it's really good practice though to try to draw straight lines on your own. I'm not someone that's really concerned about getting lines like absolutely perfect, but if you are, you can go ahead and use a ruler for this project. So I'm just going to come in. This will probably be my most detailed drawing, or my most detailed building, I should say, because this one I'm going to be able to see windows in, because this building is up close. I'll put like an antenna on there too, and maybe I'll do like more of another tiny building here in my foreground. Okay, so these are the buildings that have the most detail, and as I move into the background, they're going to get less and less detailed. So I'm going to do an overlap now. I'm going to do my second building, and so that they're not just all plain rectangles, I'm going to change my my shapes up a little bit as I draw. Of course, some can be just plain old rectangles, but you know, every once in a while, add a dome or a a point on the top. So these are kind of starting to become my middle ground in here. And this building I'll give a little bit of a dome to. Okay, so I'm feeling pretty good about my middle ground. Maybe just one little detail here or there. Not too much, just a little bit. And now I'm going to go into the background. So these buildings will be a little higher up on my paper and way less details. Not as much going on. Okay, so doesn't mean they have to be boring though, right? So let's give this guy a little, we'll step him up a little bit and maybe add a moon or a sun so we have one last overlap right up there in the sky. Okay. All right, so now I have a definite background, middle ground, and foreground. I'm going to go ahead and start adding color. And when I add color, I'm going to try to use only a couple of my colored pencils. So I'm going to, I think I'm going to do this all in blue. So I'm going to push really hard on my colored pencil in the foreground, medium in the middle ground, and very light in the background. And that's going to kind of create the sense of depth that my picture's moving back into space. I'm going to use that color too up in my sky. So I'm going to go ahead and get started with color. And remember, if I ever move too fast, you can pause the video. Okay guys, so here is my completed cityscape. That was quite the workout for both my blue colored pencil and my arm because there was a lot of shading for this drawing. In order for you to get a perfect score of a 3 on this drawing, your drawing must have the following things. It needs to have a foreground, a middle ground, and a background. It needs to have value changes from dark to medium to light, okay, from your foreground, middle ground to your background, okay. Notice I did use a black in there to darken my foreground a little bit. I tried to use the white, but I did not have a lot of success, so I kind of gave up on it. Maybe you'll be more lucky than I was. And I should also be able to see that you can overlap shapes, okay? So those are the things that you need in order to get a perfect score of a 3 on this assignment. I am looking forward to seeing what color you choose because remember we're trying to make this monochromatic, okay? So if you want to use all red and you come in with one other color a little bit, that's okay, but it should really be predominantly or mostly one color, okay? Don't forget to upload your photos to Classroom, and I will see you all next week.